All right, let's just jump right in. If you've been looking at the job market lately and feeling like it's confusing or, I don't know, just completely broken, you are definitely not imagining things. There is so much anxiety out there. But what we're going to do today is cut right through all that noise, look at what the data is actually telling us, and map out a clear way forward.
So I want to start with a single number that honestly just stopped me in my tracks. 23%. Just look at that for a second. What on earth could that number possibly be in today's world?
Yeah, you heard that right. Almost 1 out of every 4 recent grads from arguably the most prestigious business school on the planet is out of a job. This is so wild because it just completely shatters that old idea of a safe career path. I mean, if they're having a hard time, what does that mean for the rest of us?
And look, this isn't just some random one-off statistic. This pattern is showing up everywhere. We're seeing top students, people with the highest honors, going a full year without landing a job. We're seeing people get laid off from those supposedly safe jobs in consulting, banking, and tech. It really feels like the old rules just don't work anymore.
So, what is really going on here? To get it, we need to look at 2 huge, powerful forces that are basically squeezing the job market from both sides.
First up, inflationary pressure. And it's not just that your groceries cost more. The cost of just running a business has gone through the roof. And according to the World Economic Forum, this is happening all over the globe. So what happens when businesses feel that pinch? Well, they get super conservative with their single biggest expense, hiring people.
And the second force, well, this one's probably not going to surprise anybody, it's technology, specifically the absolute explosion of AI. This is changing the fundamental math for how companies think about who they need and who they don't.
And the data on this is pretty clear-cut. The World Economic Forum surveyed close to 1,000 companies, and a whopping 60% said that tech is significantly changing how they operate, and that includes hiring. But this is where the story gets a really interesting twist.
So here's the key thing you've got to understand. There is a massive gap between perception and reality. The perception, the story everyone hears, is that AI is this giant wave that's about to replace millions of jobs. And that makes companies really nervous about hiring. But the reality? According to McKinsey, only about 1% of companies, 1%, actually have a mature, fully baked AI strategy. But just the fear of AI is enough to put the brakes on everything.
Okay, so high costs plus AI anxiety is making companies slow down on hiring. That all seems to make sense, but this is where the whole situation gets, well, just plain weird. We're dealing with what I'm calling the unfilled jobs paradox.
This is the central mystery, right? If it's so hard to get a job, why are employers all over the place complaining that it's impossible to fill their open jobs? How can both of those things be true at the same time? And this just lays out the disconnect perfectly. On one side, you have all these talented, qualified people struggling to find work. And on the other side, you have employers and entrepreneurs with a record number of open jobs saying they can't find good people. It's like we're living in 2 totally different job markets simultaneously.
And you know, this isn't some new problem that just popped up yesterday. This timeline shows that the global labor shortage has actually been building for more than a decade. It took a huge leap during the pandemic, and it's just stayed at these crazy high levels ever since. This is a deep, structural problem.
So, how do we solve this paradox? Why are the old traditional paths, get a good degree, send out your resume, get a job, why is that failing so many people right now? The answer is a fundamental shift in what companies are actually looking for.
And it all comes down to something called the skills gap hypothesis. And the truth is pretty simple. The world is changing, and the skills that are in demand are changing way faster than our traditional education system can keep up. And remember, because those companies are being so careful with their money, they're just not willing to spend months and thousands of dollars training a new hire from scratch anymore. They want people who can walk in and start creating value on day one.
So what are these magical skills they're looking for? Well, the World Economic Forum report is super clear. Of course, you see the technical skills at the top, AI and big data, no surprise there. But look what's right behind them. Things like resilience, flexibility, agility, and this idea of being a lifelong learner. It's not just about what you know, it's about how you think and adapt. McKinsey actually came up with a really cool way to visualize this new ideal worker. For managers, they call it the M-shaped general manager. And notice what it is. It's a combination platter. You need knowledge in a few different areas, you need social skills, you need to know how to use AI, and you need that higher-level critical thinking. It's not about being a master of one thing anymore, it's about connecting lots of things.
And this isn't just for the bosses either. It's a similar story even if you're not a manager.
The T-shaped specialist is someone with deep expertise in one specific thing, but now that expertise has to have a layer of AI skills and higher-level problem-solving on top of it. The new expectation is that everybody, in every role, will have AI as part of their toolkit.
All right, so let's recap. The old rules are broken. There's a massive skills gap. Companies want people who are ready to go from day one. So what on earth is the new playbook? What are you supposed to do?
It all boils down to these two words: initiative. That's it. The old world where you could just expect a company to invest in you and build your career for you, that world is over. Now you, the individual, have to be the one to take control. You have to build the skills that make you valuable before you even walk in the door. So what does taking initiative actually look like in practice? It's basically a four-step process. First, you identify those in-demand skills we just talked about. Second, and this is the most important part, you learn them by doing real stuff, not just by watching videos or doing coursework. Third, you use freelancing as a tool to get paid while you get that real-world experience. And finally, you take that portfolio of real work you've done and leverage it into the full-time job you actually want.
Honestly, freelancing is the ultimate cheat code for this new market. Think about it. It is way easier to convince a company to give you one project than a full-time job. It forces you to build real things, which proves you can actually apply your skills. And the best part? You are literally getting paid to close your own skills gap, building a track record that makes you an undeniable candidate for employers down the road.
So that's the new reality. And it really leaves all of us with a final, crucial question to think about. In this new market, the difference is everything. Are you passively waiting for someone to hand you a job? Or are you actively taking the initiative to build your own career? Because the answer to that question is what will define your entire future.